Hey, welcome back to SnS Grills. I'm Javen from Postal Barbecue, and today at the grill, we're making the most delicious smoked spare ribs using the Sloan Sear travel kettle. This recipe is simple to do, tastes amazing, and it's gonna be a great hit at your next tailgate, so take a look. As I said, welcome back to SnS Grills. I appreciate you being here. If you haven't yet hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell, make sure to do so for more great barbecue recipes just like this one. And so today I'm gonna be smoking up this single rack of St. Louis style ribs using the Sloan Sear travel kettle. And the Sloan Sear travel kettle is a great option for when you're on the go or tailgating or simply just in your backyard cooking a single rack of ribs. And so to prepare these ribs today, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna feel around for any bone fragments that might have been left on here. It feels pretty good. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna remove the membrane. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this butter knife and just pry it underneath that membrane. Get my thumb under there and just kind of wedge it to the other side. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm going to just lift up and pull that membrane off and out of the way. Now that I have the membrane removed, I'm gonna take a sharp knife and I'm gonna clean up a little bit of this unwanted fat that's on the bottom, as well as anything that's unwanted on the top. There we go, flip it over and we'll do the same to the other side. We'll see that there's some fat here. I'm gonna take this little piece off. All right, that looks trimmed up quite nicely. So today, to season it, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit it with a little bit of olive oil first, and I'm gonna start on that back side. Just gonna put a little bit on. This is gonna act as a little bit of a binder for our rub to stick to. And so today, the rub that we're using is Meathead's Amazing Pork Rub. This stuff is very, very good. It does have some salt in it. And so what we're gonna be using it today for is to season it, but also to dry brine with. And so what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna apply the rub on just as we would any other rack of ribs. We'll flip it over. We're going to apply some of that olive oil to the top section as well. And then again, just like the underside, I'm going to apply Meathead's pork rub. All right, that looks very nice. And so, as I mentioned, this rub does have salt in it. And so what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be dry brining it just like we normally would. We're gonna place it into the fridge, covered overnight. And what's gonna happen is the salts that are in that rub are gonna absorb into the meat, giving us a perfectly seasoned bite every single time. So last night I did go ahead and prepare a second rack of ribs exactly the same as we did today. And so they've been seasoned, dry brined, and they're ready to go. So let me show you how I'm gonna set up the Sloan Sear travel kettle today for cooking around 250 to 275 degrees. So today in the Sloan Sear travel kettle, I'm gonna be using the 18-inch Sloan Sear basket as well as the drip and griddle pan. And so to get everything lit, I first of all placed in about 6 to 8 unlit briquettes into the corner of the Sloan Sear basket and I got those coals fully lit. Once those coals were fully lit, I then filled up the remainder of the Sloan Sear basket with unlit briquettes. I then closed the lid and adjusted my top vent about 1/3 of the way open, as well as my smoke hole about 1/3 of the way open with the bottom vents fully closed. So with the Sloan Sear travel kettle sitting around 250 degrees, let's go ahead and get our ribs onto the grill opposite the coals. We're gonna press those together just slightly. And then to finish setting up our grill, I'm gonna place in a few pieces of cherry wood. This is my preferred flavor of wood to use when ribs. There we go. Then the last thing I'm gonna add in is a loaf pan that's about half filled with water. And this is just gonna provide a little bit of hydration for those ribs as they're cooking inside the travel kettle. And so with everything on the grill, I'm gonna close up this lid and I'm gonna begin smoking this around that 250 degree mark. And we're gonna come back around 2 hours to check up on the ribs and give them a spritz. It's been about 2 hours now since I first put these ribs into the travel kettle, and our ambient temperature in the grill has been rock steady around that 250 degree mark the entire time. And so let's open up the grill and take a look at these ribs. Just look at that nice color that's on these ribs. You can see that that cherry wood is starting to darken the outside surface of these ribs, and they smell phenomenal. So what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna rotate these ribs just to promote some even cooking. And you'll notice now that the outside surface of these ribs are drying a little bit. You'll also notice that there's still a little bit of water in our water pan. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spritz these ribs with a combination of half water and half apple cider vinegar, just to add a little bit of hydration to the outside surface. There we go. And then with that spritz, I'm going to quickly close up this lid again, and we're going to come back in about an hour and a half to check up on these ribs again and see how tender they become. We're now 3.5 hours into this cook, and again, that temperature has been rock steady around that 250-degree mark the entire time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the grill, give these ribs a spritz, as well as rotate them, just to, again, promote some of that even cooking. Now just look at these ribs. You can see there is a few dry spots on it, but you have some of those natural fats that are starting to release and come out, which is a good sign. This is one of the things that we're actually looking for to see if this is getting close to being done. And so let's just rotate these ribs and expose our bones. And just look at that. You can see right off the bat that our bones are starting to poke through, and this is exactly what we're looking for. And so what I'm gonna do before I spritz it is I'm just gonna give it a tenderness test. And so one of the things I like to do with ribs is put it up on the edge like this and just grab the bones and wiggle them. And if the bone starts to pop out a little bit, you know that these are getting very close. These ones are still a little bit tight. And so I'm gonna just place those back down. I'm going to go ahead and spritz it one more time. I'm also going to remove our water pan at this point because it is dried out now, and we want our bark to begin to firm up a little bit before we add our sauce. And so with it spritzed and rotated, we're going to close up this lid again, and we're going to let it continue to cook for probably another 30 minutes or so before we come back to give it a final glaze with our barbecue sauce. All right, so I've been cooking these pork ribs for just over 4 hours now. So let's open up the grill and just check them for tenderness and see if it's time to put on our final sauce. Oh, nice. Look at these. They got some amazing color on there. You can also see that there's some nice bone pullback, and when we prop the ribs up on their side, these bones are wanting to just pull slightly out, which is a great sign. And so I'm going to say that these are ready for some sauce. And so let's grab our sauce. And again, we're using Meathead's KC barbecue sauce today. So we're just going to squeeze some of this on. Go, and then we'll brush that all over. All right, there we go. These ribs look absolutely fantastic already. And so what I'm gonna do lastly is I'm gonna close up this lid, and we're gonna continue to cook this for another 15 minutes to allow that sauce just to set up nicely. And then at that point, we'll come back, remove them from the grill, and we'll get ready for the taste test. So after about 4.5 hours, these ribs have come off the grill and they smell absolutely amazing. The color is a nice mahogany, and the aroma that's coming off them is just unbelievable. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna cut into these, and we're gonna go for the taste test. All right, I'm gonna go for this guy, and just look at this. Look at that nice smoke ring on there. Oh, this is gonna be so good. So let's go for the taste test and see how we did. Oh my goodness. That flavor, the rub, and that sauce is so great. You know, one of the things that I love about ribs is just how everything works so well together, from the smokiness to the richness to whatever rub you put on. And let me tell you, Meathead's pork rub is so good when it comes to ribs. And then you pair it with that sauce. Let me tell you, this is incredible. It comes clean off the bone in only 4.5 hours of time. It's tender, it's juicy, it's incredible. You need to give this one a try. That's amazing. So that's how you make those smoky and delicious spare ribs using the Sloan Sear travel kettle. I hope you give it a try, and remember, 2 zones are better than 1.